Hi everybody, welcome to Aisha's Corner. In this video, I'll be talking about boundaries. So what they are, how to set up boundaries, and what to do when someone crosses them. And this is part of a series that I'm starting called Mental Level Up, where I'll be talking about tips and techniques on how we can emotionally and mentally level up. So if that sounds like a good idea to you, then please keep on watching. Hi, welcome back. So I'm just gonna get right started, but before we begin, please do click the subscribe button down below, press the bell icon. I am a new YouTuber and I really do appreciate your support. So let's just begin. Now, what are boundaries? I feel like we hear this term everywhere, but it's kind of unclear what boundaries are and how to set them. But I feel like this year, as I'm growing and evolving, it's one of the biggest lessons that I am trying to implement in my life. And whenever I do videos, whether that is about pre-med, whether that's about lifestyle or mental health, I always do videos that are very relevant to me personally, and something that I'm always working on, because I'm just gonna give you a backstory and why I am doing a video on this. Growing up, I was the youngest, and I was more of a pushover basically, and I found it easier to just be quiet. And whenever someone was disrespectful to me or someone crossed any boundaries, I found it easier to just stay quiet. Like, I was scared of confrontations. And I realized that as time went on and as I grew up older and older, I thought, okay, if I keep doing this, then people will keep on disrespecting me, stepping over my boundaries, and their behavior usually never stopped. In fact, their behavior got worse as time went on. So this is a life skill that should be taught to everybody, especially women out there that are taught to stay quiet, not make any noise, and just stay in their place. And of course, not everyone has that misogynistic experience, but there's a lot of people out there, especially women coming from different sociocultural backgrounds. And I thought that this is a great lesson to learn and to also pass it on to others. So let's just start with what are boundaries and how do you set healthy boundaries? Now, setting healthy boundaries is just the process of determining what behaviors of others are acceptable to you and what behaviors are unacceptable. And this is a very personalized process, because if something is unacceptable to someone, it may be acceptable to you. So it's very individualized and personalized. And setting healthy boundaries, they help form healthy relationships, and in turn you are more self-confident and you protect yourself from disrespectful behavior in the future. So let's just get right into it. Now, when we think of boundaries, there's a misconception that if someone has a lot of boundaries, it just means that they are more guarded, or it's hard for people to get to know them emotionally. But that's not true. So let's just go into what boundaries are. Now, people classify boundaries into different categories, but I like to think of boundaries into three main categories. The first one is physical boundaries. Now, physical boundaries are rules around your personal space, privacy, and personal belongings. That includes your possessions, including money. So it's all about boundaries around your physical world. Now, the second type of boundary that I like to classify as is intellectual boundaries. Now, these are rules around your thoughts, values, opinions, and beliefs. And I'll give you examples a bit after, and the last one is called emotional boundaries, and these are rules around keeping your feelings and emotions distinct from others and knowing that they are valid. So intellectual and emotional, it might be confusing, but just think of intellectual as opinions and values, and emotional as feelings and emotions, self-explanatory. There may be more if you research this online, but just to keep things simple, I like to classify it as our physical world, our values and opinions, and our emotions. Now, I'll give you examples. So one type of physical boundary could be, I'm just gonna like say as if it's like a dialogue, but I'm not comfortable with you standing so close to me. So notice how this is more about physical space. Intellectual boundaries are, you know what, I'm not comfortable with you getting so mad at me because I disagree with you. So notice how this is about an opinion or a value judgment, and the other person's getting angry because of that disagreement. And the last one is emotional boundaries. Now this is about feelings and emotions. So one could be like, I'm not ready to share my emotional experience with you, or I'm just not comfortable sharing that with you, if it pertains to your emotions and feelings. Now, how do you even set boundaries? The first step is reflect and identify. Like I mentioned before, boundaries are so personal. What I may consider unacceptable may be very much acceptable to you. So it's time for all of us to sit down and think about what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. Because if we don't know that, and if we don't consciously reflect on that, then it just becomes harder for people to navigate relationships if you have never thought about things of that sort. So I want you to, as an action after watching this video, think about past actions that had made you uncomfortable. And that could be from your past experience, or it could be something you've witnessed in real life, or it could even be something that you watched in movies, shows, songs, in popular culture. So again, just think about okay, when I saw my two friends fighting, and when friend A acted like that, I was really uncomfortable. So you think about that, and the next thing that you can think about is whenever we get involved with someone, and that does not have to deal with romantic relationships, it could be friendships, it could be families, anyone that you interact with and connect on a deeper level, and you let them in your life, it's important to think about what traits are important to you if you let them in your life. And I know that families, you can't really choose them, but you can choose who you are open with and who you let in, and whether they are a positive addition to your life. So think about qualities that are important to you if you let them in your life, and regardless of their role. Doesn't have to be a romantic partner, it could be a friend, it could be a co-worker. It's just someone that you are going to be connected with on a deeper level. So for instance, one trait that might be important to you could be, I want someone that shows consistent communication, and if they're unavailable, I want them to let me know so that I don't worry about them. That's like an example that I can think of, but again, it's up to you to decide. Now, lastly, think about what parts of your life you're not willing to compromise on, or you're not willing to share. So for instance, I can think of time. Time is very precious, and what you spend time on is basically dictated by you. You get to choose what you spend time on, whether that's a person or a project. So for instance, one of your boundaries could be, I really need some alone time every week, so I have to disconnect from texting, calling, social media at least once a week, and I'm not willing to compromise on that unless you have an emergency. I just don't want to talk to anyone and disconnect during that time frame. Again, that's an example. You can think of something else. So again, actions that have made you uncomfortable, traits that are important to you, and things that you are not willing to compromise on. So red flags. Now, step 2 is create an inventory. Now, it's great that you've reflected and you've thought about these things, but it's important to write it down. I have been journaling since I was 11 years old, and I will probably do a video on that after, but writing things down helps so much. It makes your plans, your emotions, your feelings concrete. It allows you to analyze it afterwards. And so I recommend that once you've done the reflections, write those thoughts down and keep them in a safe place, whether that's a physical journal or even a Google document, anywhere that's safe. And you can even do voice memo notes, anything, just to like put it out in the world, and so that you can refer back to it whenever you need to. And perhaps you are engaging with somebody and you want to gauge whether they've crossed your boundaries, you can go back to this document. And some people might say, okay, that's a little excessive, you don't need to write these things down. But from my personal experience, knowing what's acceptable and not acceptable is the first step to being self-confident and not standing up to disrespect. And once you know yourself, like self-awareness, then nobody can tell you who you are. That's just been my experience. So write it down. And honestly, if you find it awkward or if you feel like someone might find it out or something, then write it down and like throw it away, you know. But the process of writing it down makes everything a bit more clear. Now, step 3, what happens when someone crosses your boundary? So now you know what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, but now like you're interacting with someone and they actually cross your boundary. What do? Do you stay quiet? No, because if you stay quiet, that tells the person that they are doing nothing wrong and they will continue with that behavior, and they might even escalate and do something worse, and it will be harder to stop once that snowballs into worse and worse behavioral patterns. So what do? Firstly, have regular calm conversations around what's good and what's not. So you don't need to surprise people all of a sudden out of the blue, like don't do this, don't do that, like don't do that. But it's a good idea in all your relationships to have gentle reminders on what's good and what's not. Like let's say someone does something and it's not exactly crossing your boundary, but it's something that you're like a little uncomfortable about. Just be like, hey, you know what? Just what you did right there, it's not that cool. I'm not really cool with that. Can you like try not to do that again? So having those regular conversations will allow people to be in tune in what's good for you, and it lets them know how they should treat you. Be assertive and provide immediate feedback whenever someone does something that you don't like. Because if you stay quiet, and I've had that happen to me before, they will continue doing that. I can guarantee. And if let's say they continue doing it and now the matter is so much bigger than it already is, then you're gonna have a bigger fight basically. So don't let these things fester. Now, set an appropriate time frame to disengage if someone repeatedly oversteps your boundaries, and get support. So let's say you were calm, you were assertive. Assertive just means like being firm and staying true to your values and just saying, no, this wasn't cool for me. But some people might continue to engage in problematic behavior, and they might continue overstepping your boundaries and testing you. So you need to set an appropriate time frame to know yourself that when will I disengage, meaning when will I actually exit? What's my limit? So for instance, let's say someone slips up and they're truly apologetic and they're like, it won't happen again. And also depends on the gravity of the boundary, but let's say it's something small and they're like, I won't do it again. And then they do it again a few months later. Now it's up to you to decide, okay, I told them not to do it, now they're doing it again. What do? Do I set up a gentle reminder, or do I actually tell them, hey, I told you this already, this is a big boundary of mine, I'm actually not going to talk to you anymore? So it depends on the gravity of the boundary how big is it? Is it something as small as taking a piece of gum, or something as big as lying, I guess, about something big? But you have to decide. And how many chances are you willing to give them? Okay, let's say you're giving them a second chance, but don't let that second chance turn into a third chance and a fourth and the fifth. Because if you keep on saying no, don't do this, and then you have no consequences for that person, it's literally all words and no action. And they're going to be like, okay, this girl's or guy is always telling me not to do this, but whenever I do it, they don't do anything. So what's the point? So again, be firm and assertive, and disengage when it gets too much. And it's up to you to decide whether you are doing, like, whether you're disengaging after the second chance, or whether you're disengaging after the fifth chance. So this whole process is very personalized, so I urge you to reflect on this and know it before you engage with others. But it is important to acknowledge that a lot of times we won't have a boundary until it happens to us, and then we get to decide, okay, this was not cool, and that's perfectly fine. I'm not saying that you should know everything beforehand and then do it and then set boundaries, but it's an ongoing process. As you grow as an individual, you will figure out what's cool with you and what's not, and that's perfectly fine. But if you do the self-reflection that I'm talking about, it will really help you be more self-confident and stand up for yourself, because no one else is going to do that. I'm serious. So get support. But I'll give you an example of how you should respond to someone if someone's crossing your boundaries. Always use I statements, because when you use you statements, people tend to get defensive and it's not really a productive conversation. And regardless of their intentions, regardless of what they did, if it made you uncomfortable, you have the right to stop that behavior. So you can say, I feel uncomfortable when, what I need, and that's it. So I feel comfortable when, blank, what I need. So you're asking them for an action. I'll give you an example. I feel uncomfortable when you start raising your voice during our disagreements. What I need is for you to speak to me calmly, and if you can't do that, I want you to take some time off from the disagreement or from the argument. Come back to me when you're more calm, because when you shout at me, it's not flying with me. So don't do it. And like, this is just a personal example, but like that's all. I feel uncomfortable when, and what I need, and whatever their like acceptable behavior is. And this is not making you difficult to work with. Boundaries are all about problematic behaviors. They're not about healthy behaviors. You're not stopping people from getting to know you emotionally, personally. This is when something is problematic to you, uncomfortable to you, and this is about dealing with those negative energies. Now, as a extension, I just want to say that you don't have to feel uncomfortable when you say no to something. No is a complete sentence. And I struggle with that, and I still do struggle with it, but I'm really working on that myself. And whenever I bring up discomfort, or even like, okay, for example, let's say a restaurant got my order wrong and I have to go up to them and say, hey, like, this is not what I ordered. I felt shy, not anymore, but I felt so shy. I was like, oh, I don't want to be an inconvenience. I don't want to like be a burden. But you're not being a burden. You're just stating your standards and how people should treat you, and that's never a burden. And if someone treats it as a burden, then you know what kind of person they are. And that's also a very big thing that I want to talk about is, whenever you set a boundary, look at how the person's reacting. Are they being defensive? Are they blame shifting you? Like, hey, you're being so unreasonable. Because a person that's valuable in your life should just be like, okay, if you're uncomfortable, then I won't do it. Simple as that. Why would someone want to make you uncomfortable? And if they're kind of resisting to your boundaries, then you know that this person is a bit, problematic, because if I care about someone and they tell me that they're uncomfortable, I'm gonna do whatever it takes to just to make them comfortable. Like, why wouldn't I? And you can't change your mind about your boundaries. So let's say you're not cool with X one day, the next day someone does that to you and you're like, okay, it's not that bad, I changed my mind. You can change your mind about anything any day, and don't let anyone make you feel bad about that. So yeah. And finally, seek support. If you're dealing with someone who's consistently making you feel uncomfortable by overstepping your boundaries and you feel like you're kind of stuck in a rut, seek support. Talk to a trusted friend. Always talk to a trusted friend. Don't let anyone tell you, hey, don't let anyone control what you can tell others. Seek support from a trusted friend, mental health professional. We also have support lines in Canada and America. Always seek help. I feel like you can't ever go wrong. And if someone's stopping you from seeking help, then again, that's a bit problematic again, because why wouldn't you want the person you love, care about, to seek help? Why not? Unless they're doing something wrong. And so I found 2 helplines. One is called Love is Respect, and so that is in America, and it offers confidential support for teens, young adults seeking help on all about healthy relationships and dating abuse, and I will link it down below. I also found something similar for Canada. It's called a crisis line, and there is within Ottawa there's a number, outside Ottawa it's a toll-free number. So I'll link it down below. If you ever feel uncomfortable, make the call, seek help, do it. So yeah, as you can see, I'm very passionate about all of this, and I really hope that I get the word out, especially to other females, even males, anyone who felt in their life that they are a bother, they are a burden, or they felt like they can't speak up. I'm telling you, you can speak up, you can stand up for yourself, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And I'm working on this myself, but I think 2021 and it is a year of growth for me, because I'm learning a lot of things about myself. So yeah, so if you like this video, please do give a like, subscribe to my channel. I do videos on pre-med, strategy, MCAT, mental health, lifestyle. Follow me on Instagram. My handle is Aisha__corner. I post infographics, I post stories about my personal life, just cool stuff that I don't post over here. So please follow me there. I really do appreciate your support. It means a lot. And starting YouTube, it took a lot of courage, but I hope that I can really help you all in any way possible. So thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next video.